The stars looked cold from the bridge of the UES Indomitable. Admiral Taewon Park stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the enemy ships in the distance. The Vexari vessels formed a wall around the human colony on Proxima Centauri. No ships could get in or out without their permission. This was the third week of the blockade. 3 weeks of talks that went nowhere. 3 weeks of watching supplies dwindle on the colony below. "Admiral, we have a message from the Vexari commander," said Lieutenant Jiwoo Kim. Her voice was tight with anger she tried to hide. Park nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life. The face that appeared wasn't human. It had 4 eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. Commander Draz of the Vexari Dominion looked down at Park with clear scorn. "Human Admiral," Draz said, "your time is up. Remove your ships from this sector immediately. The colony now belongs to the Vexari Dominion." Park kept his face calm, though inside he felt a storm brewing. The colony holds 10,000 human civilians. What will happen to them? Draz made a sound like rocks grinding together. A Vexari laugh. "They will serve the Dominion, of course. Your species makes adequate workers in our mines." The bridge crew stiffened. Everyone remembered what had happened 3 years ago at Arcturus. Thousands of human colonists had been taken to work in Vexari mines. None had survived. "The Galactic Council has rules against such actions," Park said carefully. "Enslaving sentient beings is forbidden. The Council has approved our claim to the system," Draz replied. "Your colony was built without proper authorization. The humans there are illegal settlers and not protected by Council law." Park knew this was a lie. The colony had all the right papers, but the Council, made up of the oldest and most powerful alien species, always seemed to rule against humans. "You have 6 hours to withdraw," Draz said. "After that, we will remove you by force." The screen went dark. Lieutenant Kim turned to Park. "Sir, we can't abandon the colony." "We won't," Park said. He touched the communication panel on his chair. "Get me Earth Command." Minutes later, Director Minji Kang's face appeared on the screen. She was the head of all human military forces. "Admiral Park," she said, "I've just received word from our ambassador at the Galactic Council. They've rejected our appeal. They say the Vexari have the right to claim Proxima Centauri." Park closed his eyes for a moment. "And the colonists?" "The Council says it's not their concern." Kang's voice was bitter. "They suggested we should be grateful the Vexari are willing to employ them. So we're on our own. Again." Park wasn't surprised. For 50 years since humans had first met alien life, they had been treated as lesser beings. Humans were too young, too emotional, too unpredictable, the other species said. They couldn't be trusted with advanced technology or prime worlds. Humanity had played by the rules. They had signed the treaties. They had accepted limits on their ships, their weapons, their colonies. And what had it gotten them? Contempt, restrictions, and now another colony about to be lost. "What are your orders, Director?" Park asked. Kang was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "The President has authorized Protocol Omega." The bridge went completely quiet. Protocol Omega wasn't just a military plan. It was the end of human patience. The end of playing by alien rules. "Are you certain?" Park asked. "Once we begin, there's no going back. We've tried everything else," Kang said. "We've been diplomatic. We've been patient. We've followed their rules for 50 years. And still they treat us like animals. They take our worlds. They enslave our people." Her eyes were hard. "It's time they learned that humans have limits. And they've just crossed the final one." Park nodded slowly. "Authentication code?" "Thermopylae," Kang replied. "The ancient battle where a small force had stood against overwhelming odds. It was fitting." "Understood," Park said. "May our ancestors watch over us all." As the screen went dark, Park turned to his crew. "Send the signal to all human ships." "Authentication code Thermopylae." Lieutenant Kim's hands trembled slightly as she sent the message. "Sir, what is Protocol Omega?" Park looked out at the stars again. "Something we hoped we'd never need." He turned to his tactical officer. "Lieutenant Do-hyun, prepare all weapon systems. Target the Vexari command ship." "Sir?" Do-hyun looked shocked. "Our weapons can't penetrate their shields." Park smiled grimly. "Yes, they can. Disengage the limiters and load the real weapons." Confusion spread across the bridge. "Real weapons?" someone asked. "For 50 years," Park explained, "humanity has shown the aliens exactly what they expected to see. a young, struggling species barely able to reach the stars. We built ships that matched what they thought we could build. We used weapons they approved of. His smile grew colder. But all that time we were building other things too. Things we kept hidden. He pressed a button on his chair. Hidden panels throughout the ship slid open, revealing weapon systems that hadn't been there before, or rather, had always been there but concealed. The Vexari have 6 ships, Park said. We have one. They think this is enough to ensure their victory. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Across human space, the same scene was playing out on hundreds of ships. Hidden weapons were revealed. Secret orders were given. Plans made decades ago were put into motion. On the colony below, Governor Jisoo Ryu received the coded message from the Indomitable. Her face paled as she read it. Begin evacuation to the shelters, she ordered her staff. And activate the defense grid. What defense grid? Her assistant asked. We only have basic shields. Jisoo walked to a plain wall in her office and pressed her hand against it. A scanner read her fingerprints, and the wall slid away to reveal a hidden room filled with advanced technology. That's what the Vexari think, she said. That's what everyone thinks. But we humans learned long ago not to trust our safety to others. In orbit, Commander Draz watched with amusement as the human ship changed position. They're moving to protect the colony, his second-in-command reported. 1 ship against our 6. Humans are so predictable, Draz said. Always fighting hopeless battles. Always putting emotion before logic. He settled back in his command chair. Target their engines. I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. The Council prefers we avoid unnecessary killing. Yes, Commander. Weapons locked on target. Draz raised his hand, ready to give the order to fire. But before he could speak, his sensor officer called out in alarm. Commander! The human ship, it's changing. On the view screen, the UES Indomitable seemed to shimmer. Panels along its hull were sliding open, revealing weapon ports that hadn't been there before. Its engines glowed with a power signature far beyond what a human ship should have been capable of. Impossible, Draz whispered. Their technology isn't that advanced. Admiral Park's voice came through on all channels. Vexari vessels, this is your only warning. Leave the system immediately or be destroyed. Draz laughed. You think 1 ship can stand against 6? Your species truly is delusional. Park's reply was calm. We're not delusional. We're just done pretending. The Indomitable fired. Not the weak energy beams the Vexari expected, but something else, something that cut through the command ship's shields like they weren't even there. As his ship shuddered around him, Draz realized with sudden clarity that everything he thought he knew about humans was wrong. And his last thought before his ship broke apart was that his entire species had made a terrible mistake. The day humanity snapped had begun, and the echo of that moment would soon reach every corner of the galaxy. The Vexari command ship broke apart in a flash of light. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but its message was loud and clear. Humanity was done being pushed around. On the bridge of the UES Indomitable, Admiral Park watched without emotion as the enemy ship dissolved into floating debris. The 5 remaining Vexari vessels hung in space, seemingly frozen in shock. Target the next largest ship, Park ordered. Lieutenant Do-hyun's fingers flew over his console. Targeting complete, sir. Fire. Another beam of energy, bright blue and impossibly focused, lanced out from the Indomitable. It struck the second Vexari ship, cutting through its shields and hull in one clean shot. The ship didn't explode. Instead, it simply went dark, its power core disabled with surgical precision. Sir, we're being hailed by the remaining Vexari ships, Lieutenant Kim reported. Ignore them, Park said. Continue the attack. One by one, the Indomitable disabled the Vexari vessels, not destroying them but leaving them floating helplessly in space. Only when all 5 ships were dark did Park give the order to stop. Now we'll answer their call, he said. The main screen lit up to show a Vexari officer. Unlike Commander Draz, this one showed no arrogance, only fear. What have you done? The Vexari asked, his voice shaking. How did you do this? We did what we should have done years ago, Park replied. As for how, that's a lesson your people are about to learn the hard way. He cut the transmission and turned to his communications officer. Contact Governor Ryu on the colony. Governor Jisoo Ryu's face appeared on screen. Behind her, colony staff were rushing about, preparing defenses that no one had known existed until today. Admiral, she greeted him. I see the Vexari fleet has been neutralized. For now, Park said. But they've already called for help. We need to evacuate the colony immediately. Ryu nodded. We've begun moving people to the underground shelters. But there are 10,000 colonists here. Even with the hidden ships, we can't evacuate everyone quickly. You won't have to, Park assured her. Help is on the way. Just hold your position for 2 more hours. As the call ended, Lieutenant Kim looked at Park with confusion. Sir, what help? The nearest human fleet is 3 days away at maximum speed. Park smiled slightly. That's what the Vexari think too. That's what everyone thinks. He pressed a button on his chair. This is Admiral Park to all ships in the Proxima Defense Group. The time has come. Execute jump now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to tear open. Not 1 or 2, but 20 massive ships appeared around Proxima Centauri. They hadn't traveled there. They had simply appeared using technology that the Galactic Council believed was impossible. The quantum displacement network is online, reported a voice over the comm. It was Captain Hyunwoo Baek of the UES Defiant, the largest of the newly arrived ships. All vessels reporting ready, Admiral. Begin evacuation of the colony, Park ordered. And prepare for the Vexari reinforcements. They'll be here within the hour. On the colony below, people stared up at the sky in amazement. Where had these ships come from? How had they appeared so suddenly? For most colonists, this was the first hint that humanity had been hiding its true capabilities. In the governor's office, Jisoo Ryu watched the evacuation ships descend. They were unlike any human vessels she had seen before. Sleeker, more advanced, clearly built with technology beyond what aliens thought humans possessed. Begin loading the most vulnerable first, she ordered her staff. Children, elderly, and medical patients. Her assistant, Minho, looked troubled. Governor, what's happening? Where did these ships come from? Jisoo sighed. 50 years ago, when humans first met alien life, we were excited. We thought we'd found friends among the stars. Instead, we found species that looked down on us, restricted us, and exploited us. She walked to the window, watching as people boarded the evacuation ships. After the Arcturus massacre, Earth's leaders made a decision. If the galaxy wouldn't treat us as equals, we would have to force them to, but we couldn't do it with the technology they allowed us to have. So we created 2 faces of humanity, the public one that followed the rules and the hidden one that prepared for this day. Minho looked shocked. You mean we've been lying to the entire galaxy? We've been surviving, Jisoo corrected him. And now we're done hiding. In space, Admiral Park received word that the evacuation had begun. But there was no time to feel relief. His sensors detected new ships entering the system, a lot of them. Vexari reinforcements, Lieutenant Do-Yun reported. 30 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. Park nodded calmly. Right on schedule. Captain Beck, is your ship ready? Yes, Admiral, came the reply from the Defiant. Thanatos missiles are armed and ready. Thanatos missiles, Lieutenant Kim whispered. But those are planet killers. Their use is forbidden by the Galactic Accords. The Accords that let the Vexari massacre our people on Arcturus? Park asked quietly. The Accords that the Council ignores whenever it suits them? Those Accords? Kim fell silent, understanding in her eyes. The Vexari fleet approached with confidence. Their sensors showed 21 human ships, a larger force than expected, but still no match for their superior technology. Or so they thought. This is Fleet Commander Kraz of the Vexari Dominion, came a transmission. Human vessels, power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your illegal attack on our ships will not go unpunished. Park didn't bother to respond. Instead, he gave a simple order. All ships execute attack pattern Sejong. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, splitting into 3 groups that approached the Vexari from different angles. The aliens adjusted their formation to counter. Exactly as expected. They're in position, Do-Hyun reported. Captain Baek. You may fire when ready, Park said. On the Defiant, Captain Beck gave the order. Launch Thanatos missiles. Targets as planned. 5 missiles shot from the Defiant. They didn't head for the Vexari ships, but instead streaked past them, heading for empty space. The Vexari ignored them, focusing their weapons on the approaching human vessels. That was their mistake. The missiles detonated in seemingly empty areas of space, but they weren't empty. They were the exact coordinates where the Vexari ships would be in 30 seconds, based on their current course and speed. The explosions didn't destroy anything, not at first. Instead, they created fields of distorted spacetime, invisible traps that the Vexari ships flew right into. When the first dreadnought hit the field, it seemed to stretch and compress at the same time. Metal screamed as it was pulled in impossible directions. The ship didn't explode, it simply came apart, torn by forces it was never designed to withstand. One by one, the Vexari ships met the same fate. Some tried to turn away, but human vessels were waiting, firing weapons that cut through their shields like paper. In less than 10 minutes, the battle was over. The mighty Vexari reinforcement fleet was reduced to scattered debris and disabled hulks. On the Indomitable, the crew watched in stunned silence. Many of them hadn't known about the hidden weapons, the secret ships, the forbidden technology. They were seeing humanity's true power for the first time, just like their enemies. "Send a message to Earth Command," Park ordered. "Proxima Centauri is secure. The colony evacuation is proceeding. Request further orders." As the message was sent, Park looked out at the stars again. For 50 years, humanity had played the part of the galaxy's new, weak species. They had bowed their heads and accepted restrictions. They had watched their people die while following rules that others ignored. That time was over. The mask had been removed, and now the galaxy would see humanity's true face. The day humanity snapped continued to unfold, and its echo was growing louder. The Galactic Council chamber was the most impressive room in the known universe. Built from crystal and rare metals, it soared hundreds of feet high. The ceiling showed moving images of stars and planets. Around a massive round table sat the representatives of the 20 most powerful species in the galaxy. Today, the chamber was in chaos. "This is outrageous," shouted Xanthor, the Supreme Counselor. His blue skin had turned almost purple with anger. "The humans have destroyed 2 Vexari fleets. They have used weapons forbidden by our laws." Reports were coming in from all over the galaxy. Human ships had appeared out of nowhere, attacking Vexari bases and freeing human prisoners. Somehow they were moving faster than should be possible, using weapons that shouldn't exist. "How is this happening?" asked the Tellurian representative, her tentacles waving in distress. "Humans are a primitive species. They don't have this kind of technology." "Clearly they do," said the Arcturian counselor, his voice calm compared to the others. "The question is, how did they hide it from us for so long?" The main doors of the chamber suddenly slid open. The council guards moved to block the entrance, pointing their weapons at the single figure who stood there. It was a human man in a simple, dark uniform. Ambassador Doyen Ryu had represented humanity at the council for 15 years. He had always been polite, humble, and respectful. Today he was none of those things. "Lower your weapons," Ryu said to the guards. His voice wasn't loud, but something in it made the guards hesitate. "You dare to enter this chamber uninvited?" Xanthor demanded. "After your species has committed acts of war?" Ryu walked forward, ignoring the guards. They tried to stop him, but suddenly found their weapons wouldn't work. Their neural implants, the technology that connected them to the Council's security systems, had gone dead. "I come with a message from Earth," Ryu said, stepping up to the great table. "Humanity is done being treated as lesser beings. Your ships have attacked the Vexari without provocation," Xanthor shouted. Ryu's face hardened. "Without provocation? The Vexari have blockaded our colony. They threatened to enslave our people, just as they did on Arcturus 3 years ago." He looked around the table. "When 10,000 humans were worked to death in Vexari mines, this council did nothing. You said it was an internal matter." "The Vexari were punished for that incident," said the Tellurian representative. "Punished?" Ryu laughed bitterly. "They paid a fine, for 10,000 lives." He pulled a small device from his pocket and placed it on the table. It projected a large hologram showing battles taking place across the galaxy. Human ships were engaging Vexari vessels everywhere and winning. "How is this possible?" whispered one of the counselors. "Your technology is nowhere near this advanced." "No," Ryu agreed. "The technology you allowed us to have is not this advanced." "The technology we actually have? That's a different story." The council members stared at him in shock. "For 50 years, Ryu continued, we played your game. We accepted your restrictions. We showed you exactly what you expected to see, a young, emotional species struggling to find its place among the stars." He touched the device again, and the hologram changed to show hidden human facilities. Massive shipyards building advanced vessels, laboratories developing technologies the Council had forbidden. "All while we built this," Ryu said. "A shadow civilization. A hidden fleet. Technology you thought was centuries beyond us. This is a violation of every treaty. Xanthor sputtered. Treaties that were forced on us, Ryu countered. Treaties that restricted only humans, while other species were free to develop as they wished. Treaties that didn't protect us when we needed protection. He looked each council member in the eye. You thought humans were weak because we valued peace. You thought we were primitive because we didn't show you everything we could do. That was your mistake. The Arcturian counselor leaned forward. What does humanity want, Ambassador? Why are you here? I'm here to deliver terms, Ryu said simply. The chamber erupted again. Terms? Humans giving terms to the Galactic Council? It was unthinkable. Ryu waited for the noise to die down. Humanity wants 3 things. First, the Vexari will withdraw from all human territories and pay real compensation for the Arcturus massacre. Second, all restrictions on human technology and expansion will end immediately. Third, humanity will be recognized as a full and equal member of the galactic community, with all the rights that entails. And if we refuse? Xanthor asked, his voice dangerous. Ryu touched his device one more time. The hologram changed to show something that made the council members gasp. Human ships were appearing in orbit around each of their homeworlds, not attacking, just waiting. How did they get there so quickly? The Tellurian representative whispered. It's impossible. Quantum displacement technology, Ryu explained. Your scientists said it couldn't be done. Ours did it 20 years ago. He looked at Xanthor. We don't want war, Supreme Counselor. We never did. But if you force us to fight, you will lose, not because humans are naturally superior, but because we've spent 50 years preparing for this moment while you were busy underestimating us. The council chamber fell silent. For the first time in its long history, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were speechless. You have 6 hours to consider our terms, Ryu said. I'll return for your answer. As he turned to leave, the Arcturian counselor called after him. Ambassador, one question, why now? Why reveal yourselves this way? Ryu paused at the door. Because sometimes the only way to get respect is to show your strength. We tried asking nicely. We tried following your rules. It didn't work. His eyes were sad but determined. Humans don't want to rule the stars. We just refuse to be ruled. After Ryu left, the council erupted into argument. Some wanted to call his bluff. Others wanted to surrender immediately. The debate raged for hours. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the human offensive continued. Vexari military bases were disabled one by one. Human prisoners were freed from labor camps. Colony worlds that had been under threat were now protected by ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. On Earth, Director Minji Kang stood in the Global Command Center, watching it all unfold. Beside her was President Jaehwan Cho, the leader of all humanity. The council will be voting soon, Kang said. Do you think they'll accept our terms? Cho looked at the giant display showing human ships in position around 24 worlds. They don't have much choice. We've shown them what we can do. And if they refuse? The president sighed heavily. Then we show them what we're willing to do. Kang nodded, though the thought troubled her. Humanity had spent decades building its hidden strength, not for conquest, but for protection. Yet now that they had revealed themselves, there was no going back. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. I've received a message from Ambassador Ryu, said a communications officer. The council has called for a vote. Kang and Cho exchanged glances. This was the moment that would decide the future, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. Whatever happens, Cho said quietly, remember why we did this. Not for power, not for revenge, but so that no human would ever again suffer what happened at Arcturus. Kang nodded. For Arcturus, she agreed. The day humanity snapped had reached its turning point, and its echo was about to be heard by every species in the galaxy. While the Galactic Council debated humanity's terms, a small ship slipped through space far from the main battles. The UES Shadow lived up to its name. It was nearly invisible to sensors, covered in materials that absorbed light and energy rather than reflecting them. Colonel Yunjin Quan checked her gear one last time. Her team of 12 Special Forces soldiers did the same, their movements quick and precise. They had trained for missions like this for years, though they never thought they would actually carry one out. 2 minutes to target, said the pilot's voice over the comm. Quan looked at her team. Remember the mission. Get in, get the data, get out. No unnecessary risks, the soldiers nodded. They all knew what was at stake. The target was Research Station Omega, a Vexari facility hidden in an asteroid belt. According to intelligence, it was where the Vexari had developed the biological weapons they had used on human prisoners at Arcturus. Docking complete, the pilot announced. No alarms detected. The station appears to be evacuated. That made sense. When news of the human offensive reached them, the Vexari scientists had probably fled. But they would have left their data behind. Data that humanity needed. Quan led her team through the airlock and into the station. The corridors were dark, lit only by emergency lights. Their footsteps echoed in the empty halls. Life signs? Quan asked over the comm. None detected, replied Captain Jun-Ho Lee, her second in command. But stay alert. They might have left security systems active. The team moved through the station like ghosts, checking each room as they passed. Most were laboratories filled with equipment Quan didn't recognize. In some, there were cages, human-sized cages. Quan's jaw tightened. The reports were true. The Vexari had been experimenting on humans here. Colonel, we've found the main data center, Lee reported from up ahead. Quan joined him in a large room filled with computer terminals. Dr. Sun-Woo Park, the team's science specialist, was already working at the main console. Can you access their files? Quan asked. Park nodded, his fingers flying over the alien keyboard. Their security is good, but not good enough. I'm in. As data began to flow across the screens, Park's face grew pale. Colonel, you need to see this. Quan looked at the screen and felt her blood run cold. There were thousands of files, each with a human name attached. Test subjects, experiments, genetic modifications. They've been experimenting on humans for decades, Park said, his voice shaking slightly. Not just at Arcturus. Everywhere they could get their hands on our people. What kind of experiments? Quan asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Biological weapons designed specifically for human DNA, Park replied. They were trying to create a virus that would only kill humans, leaving other species unharmed. Quan's hand tightened on her weapon. Download everything. Command needs to see this. While Park worked, Quan explored the rest of the data center. In a side room, she found something that made her stop in her tracks. Containers. Hundreds of them, each labeled with a human name. Lee, she called. Get in here. Captain Lee joined her, his eyes widening at the sight. Are those samples? Quan confirmed. Human DNA samples. Thousands of them. Lee checked one of the containers. This one is labeled Park Ji-hoon Colony Alpha 7. That colony was destroyed in a natural disaster 5 years ago. Not so natural, it seems, Quan said grimly. The Vexari have been collecting human DNA for years, using it to develop weapons against us. Download complete, Dr. Park called from the main room. I've got everything. Good, Quan said. Now plant the charges. Nothing can remain of this place. As her team set explosive devices throughout the station, Quan contacted the Shadow. Mission accomplished. We have the data and are preparing to withdraw. Understood, Colonel, came the reply. But be advised, we're detecting a Vexari ship approaching. ETA 10 minutes. Plenty of time, Quan said. We'll be out in 5. True to her word, 5 minutes later the team was back aboard the Shadow, which detached from the station and slipped away into the darkness of space. Behind them, Research Station Omega erupted in a series of explosions, destroying all evidence of the Vexari's cruel experiments. The Shadow transmitted its findings to Earth Command immediately. The data was too important to wait. Aboard the stealth vessel UES Phantom, Commander Ji-won Choi received the transmission from Quan's team. As one of the architects of humanity's intelligence network, she had suspected the Vexari were developing biological weapons, but the scale revealed in the data was shocking. Send this to Director Kang immediately, she ordered her communications officer, and prepare a broadcast package for the Galactic Council. They need to see what the Vexari have been doing. Choi had spent 20 years building humanity's shadow intelligence service. While the official human representatives smiled and bowed to alien diplomats, Choi and her agents had been gathering information, planting listening devices, and infiltrating alien networks. They had discovered the Vexari's plans for Arcturus months before the massacre. They had warned Earth Command, but the Council had refused to act and humanity wasn't ready to reveal its true strength. Not then. Now things were different. Now, humanity was done hiding. Meanwhile, beneath the icy surface of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, Professor Minjin Huang stood before his life's work, the quantum displacement engine. The massive machine hummed with power, creating ripples in space-time that allowed ships to jump instantly across vast distances. All displacement nodes are online, reported his assistant, Dr. Yuna Song. The network is stable. Huang nodded with satisfaction. For 30 years he had worked on this technology in secret. The Galactic Council had declared it impossible. Their scientists said the energy requirements were too great, the calculations too complex. They were wrong. Inform Admiral Park that Project Hermes is fully operational, Huang said. Our ships can now deploy anywhere in Council space within minutes. This was humanity's true advantage, not superior weapons or tactics, but the ability to be everywhere at once. While other species were limited by the speed of light or the efficiency of their jump drives, human ships could simply appear where they were needed most. The quantum displacement network had been built in secret, with nodes hidden in uninhabited star systems or disguised as research stations. Even most humans didn't know it existed until today. Dr. Song looked troubled. Professor, now that we've revealed ourselves, what happens next? The other species won't just accept this. They'll see us as a threat, Huang sighed. Perhaps. But they already saw us as a threat, a potential one to be contained and controlled. At least now they'll respect us enough to treat us as equals. And if they don't, then they'll learn why humans have always feared other humans more than any alien species, Huang said quietly. Throughout our history, we've been our own worst enemies. We've fought wars that nearly destroyed our world. We've created weapons that could wipe out all life on Earth. He looked at the quantum displacement engine, the product of human ingenuity and determination. But we've also created this, technology that connects rather than destroys. That's the choice the galaxy faces now, to accept us as partners or face us as enemies. Across human space, similar scenes were playing out. Hidden facilities were revealed. Secret projects were activated. Technologies that had been developed in the shadows were brought into the light. For generations, humans had compartmentalized their research, created shadow industries, and built hidden infrastructure, all while maintaining the appearance of a species, struggling to catch up to the galactic standard. The greatest deception wasn't what humanity had done when they snapped. It was what they had been doing, quietly for the 50 years before. As Colonel Kwan's team returned to Earth with their evidence of Vexari crimes, as Commander Choi prepared to reveal those crimes to the galaxy, as Professor Huang's quantum network allowed human ships to appear wherever they were needed, one thing became clear. The day humanity snapped had been decades in the making, and its echo would forever change the balance of power among the stars. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as the final vote was counted. For 6 hours, the representatives of the 20 most powerful species had argued, threatened, and finally accepted reality. Humanity was no longer the galaxy's newest child. It was a force to be reckoned with. Supreme Counselor Xanthor stood, his blue face solemn. The vote is unanimous. The Council accepts the human terms. Ambassador Doyen Ryu bowed slightly. He showed no triumph, no gloating, only quiet satisfaction. The Galactic Council hereby recognizes humanity as a sovereign power with all rights and privileges thereof, Xanthor continued. The Vexari Dominion will withdraw from human territories and pay reparations for the Arcturus massacre. All restrictions on human technological development are lifted. Ryu nodded. The United Earth government accepts the Council's decision. As a gesture of good faith, we will cease all military operations immediately. As the formal proceedings ended, the Arcturian counselor approached Ryu privately. The Arcturians were one of the oldest species in the galaxy, known for their wisdom and foresight. You could have asked for more, the Arcturian said. With your ships positioned around our homeworlds, you could have demanded anything. Ryu smiled sadly. That was never our goal. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want our place in it. Still, the Arcturian pressed, why such reasonable terms when you held all the advantage? Because this was never about conquest or revenge, Ryu explained. It was about recognition and prevention. We want to ensure that what happened at Arcturus never happens again, to any species. The Arcturian studied him with ancient eyes. I believe you mean that. But not all will trust human intentions so easily. You have revealed great power that was hidden. Many will fear what else you might be hiding. Fear is natural, Ryu acknowledged, but it can lead to understanding in time. Humans have learned that lesson in our own history. As Ryu left the council chamber, he received a message from Earth. Director Minji Kang wanted to speak with him immediately. When her face appeared on his comm device, Kang looked both relieved and concerned. The council accepted our terms? Yes, Director, unanimously. Good, but we have new information you need to see. Kang's expression darkened. Colonel Kwan's team found evidence at a Vexari research station. They weren't just mining humans on Arcturus, they were experimenting on them, developing biological weapons targeted specifically at human DNA. Ryu felt cold anger rise within him. Does the council know? Not yet. We're preparing to present the evidence. But there's more. Kang hesitated. The research wasn't just Vexari. They had help. From members of the council. This news hit Ryu like a physical blow. Which ones? We're still analyzing the data, but it appears at least 3 council species were involved. Ryu's mind raced. This changed everything. The agreement they had just reached might be worthless if council members had been secretly supporting anti-human research. What are your orders, Director? Kang was silent for a moment. Proceed as planned. Honor the agreement. But make it clear that we know more than we're saying, and that any further action against humanity will be met with the full force of our response. Understood, Ryu said. 3 months later, Director Minji Kang stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station. The massive space station orbited Earth, a symbol of humanity's new place in the galaxy. Through its windows, Kang could see ships arriving from 27 different species, carrying representatives for the first Galactic Concord Summit. Admiral Taewon Park joined her, now wearing the insignia of the new Human Defense Force. His face showed the weariness of the past 3 months spent negotiating, revealing some, but not all, of humanity's hidden capabilities, and preparing for either peace or renewed conflict. Quite a view, Park said, looking at the alien ships. I never thought I'd see the day when the Vexari would come to Earth as guests rather than conquerors. They're not here by choice, Kang reminded him. The reparations agreement requires their participation in the conquered. Park nodded. Do you think it will last? The peace? Kang considered the question carefully. I believe it can. Not because of fear, but because for the first time we're all truly seeing each other. And if it doesn't, then they know what happens when humanity snaps, Kang said, her voice hardening. Some lessons need only be taught once. The summit began with formal speeches and careful diplomacy. The Vexari representatives kept their eyes down, their once proud posture now subdued. The evidence of their biological weapons program had been presented to the council, forcing them to pay even greater reparations to humanity. But the 3 council species who had helped the Vexari remained unidentified. Humanity knew who they were. The data from Research Station Omega had been clear, but Kang had made the decision to hold that information in reserve. A card to play if needed. As the summit progressed, something unexpected began to happen. Other species, smaller, less powerful ones who had also suffered under council restrictions, began to approach the human delegates privately. We admire what you did, said the representative from Tau, Seti, standing up to the council demanding equal treatment. We wish we could do the same. Perhaps you can, Ambassador Ryu told them. Not through hidden fleets or secret weapons, but through alliance. Together we can ensure the galaxy is fair to all species, not just the oldest and strongest. This idea, an alliance of younger species, spread quickly through the summit. By the final day, 12 species had signed what would become known as the Soul Accords, a mutual defense and development agreement with humanity at its center. The council species watched with concern. The balance of power was shifting before their eyes. On the last day of the summit, Professor Minjin Huang presented his quantum displacement technology to the gathered representatives. Not all of it. Humanity still kept some secrets, but enough to show that faster-than-light travel could be achieved in new ways. We offer this technology to all signatories of the Soul Accords, Huang announced. Not as a weapon, but as a tool to bring our worlds closer together. The message was clear: ally with humanity and share in their advancements. Oppose them and face their hidden strength. As the summit ended and the alien ships departed, Kang met with President Jae-won Cho in his office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. "The first step has been taken," Cho said. "The galaxy knows our true face now." "Not our entire face," Kang reminded him. "We've revealed perhaps 60% of our capabilities. The rest remains in reserve," Cho nodded. "A necessary precaution. Trust must be earned on both sides." "And the Vexari? Do you believe their apology was sincere?" "No," Cho said bluntly. "But their fear is. They know what we could have done to their worlds, their people. They know we chose restraint." Kang looked out at the ocean, thinking of the vastness of space beyond. "What happens now?" "Now we build," Cho said. "Not just ships and stations, but relationships, alliances, a new order where no species can do to others what was done to us." Across human space, the war machines were being converted back to peaceful purposes. The quantum displacement network now carried trade goods instead of warships. The advanced AI systems developed for combat were reprogrammed to solve scientific challenges. But deep within secure facilities on Earth and its colonies, the knowledge remained. The plans were preserved, the contingencies maintained. For the day humanity snapped had indeed echoed across the stars, and no species would ever forget. The galaxy had learned that humans were not merely the emotional, unpredictable species from Sol 3. They were something far more complex. A people who valued peace enough to prepare thoroughly for war, who could appear technologically stunted while harboring revolutionary innovations, and who could endure decades of condescension while quietly building the means to ensure it would never happen again. As the new era dawned, one truth was universally acknowledged throughout galactic civilization. Underestimating humanity was a mistake no one would make twice.